and thank you for joining us tonight for the 2023 budget hearing. I want to first start off with a few thank yous. I want to thank my staff, Jessica Casares and Amari Lemus, for all the work that they put into our very first budget hearing this evening. I want to thank our Legislative Research Department, Oswald, Chris Matlin, and Naya Walters. We could not do any of the work that we do without you. I want to also thank our amazing team at CCTV, as well as all of our hardworking directors and city staff that you're going to hear from this evening. The purpose of tonight's budget hearing is to provide a brief overview of the city's 2023 budget in regards to the three following committees that I have the honor of chairing: Veteran and Senior Affairs, Neighborhood and Immigrant, Refugee and Migrant Affairs, and Public Service and Transportation. I also want to make one very special call out. I mean, I know that we're not supposed to have favorites, but I want to say something about these committees. They are all led by strong, amazing women, every single one of them, from Director Carla Williams-Scott, Director Jennifer Gallagher, we have Director Katie White, we have Director Marisa Sheldon. This just goes to show the power of women to run and rule the world. I just wanted to point that out. So tonight, I'm proud to work with each one of you and each one of the departments, and excited about the work that we've been able to achieve in our first year partnering together, but certainly looking ahead to the year ahead. Last night, we passed some amazing things, pieces of legislation, piloting some programs in each of these departments that we're excited about bringing to fruition in the following year, next year. So tonight, give me 1 second. Having a little technical difficulty. So each department will present an overview of their 2023 budget and receive some questions. With us this evening, you'll hear from the Department, as I said before, of Public Service and Transportation, Central Ohio Area on Aging, Age Friendly Columbus, and the Department of Neighborhoods. In 2020, City Council created an internal racial equity collaborative to further our mission of creating a more equitable city that gives all residents access to the full breadth of opportunities available in Columbus. We have become more intentional about assuring that equity is at the center of all of our processes, including how we budget. This is in alignment with the mayor's equity agenda, ensuring that both from the administration side and the legislation side, we are moving our people closer to prosperity. So we've asked each of the departments this evening to illustrate how they are incorporating and considering equitable practices and initiatives in their budgeting process. So after each department gives their budget overview, we'll ask some questions. We did not have public commentary this evening, so we might speed through some of these, but you all know that I am very inquisitive, so I might have more than a few questions for all of you. So first, I know that Director Gallagher is not here, but in her stead, we have from the Department of Public Service, Assistant Director Steve Wenzel. So, Director.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Barosa de Padilla. Thank you for this opportunity to present the highlights of the Department of Public Service's proposed 2023 operating budget. Just to recap 2022, the department's 2022 operating budget is $164.2 million. Through the third quarter of this year, we are projecting that our total 2022 expenses will be $158.8 million, resulting in a budget surplus of $4.4 million, or roughly around 2.7% across all divisions and all funds. As far as operating cash for 2022, we are projecting ending the year with $28.4 million in cash reserves across all of our funds throughout the department. So now moving into 2023, the Department of Public Service has a proposed funding level of $187.7 million for the Department of Public Service, which represents a 14.3% increase or $25.3 million as compared to the 2022 operating budget. Most of this increase is attributed to the expanded debt service costs associated with the newly created Mobility Enterprise Fund, specifically for the Starling Garage and the Astor Park Garage, and an increase of $6 million to collect recycling every week. The Department of Public Service is comprised of the Director's Office, which makes up about $11.9 million of our total department budget, or 6%, plus 5 divisions. We got the refuse collection division, which is $67.4 million, or 36% of our budget. Parking services at $20.1 million, or 11% of our budget. Infrastructure management, $41.0 million, or 22% of our budget. Traffic management, $23.4, or 12%. And lastly, design and construction at $23.9 million, or 13% of our budget. This budget will fund overall 885 full and part-time personnel that provide some of the most core city services, including refuse collection, which contains residential, bulk, and recycling, maintaining and improving our roadways, fixing potholes and plowing snow, installation and maintenance of traffic signals, signage, and pavement markings to promote the safety of our citizens, publicly managed parking for both on-street and off-street facilities, and making Columbus a safer city for pedestrians and bicyclists. Overall, the Department of Public Services also funded by, I think I just missed my slide, sorry. There we go. The Department of Public Service is also funded by 5 different funding sources. So over 64% is funded from sources other than the general fund. 80 million, or 42.7%, is allocated from the Street Construction Maintenance and Repair Fund, of which 76% of that revenue comes from gas tax or auto license fees. The general fund this year will provide $68.3 million, which represents 36.4% of our budget, mostly to support the refuse collection division and a small portion of the director's office. We also have the construction inspection fund, which provides $12.9 million, or 6.8% of the budget. The private inspection fund, which allocates $5.3 million, or 2.8% of the budget. And lastly, the mobility enterprise revenue fund supports about $21.2 million, or 11.3% of the total budget. Taking a closer look at the division's budget, the proposed 2023 budget for the director's office is $11.9 million, or 6.4% of the department's overall budget. Of that, $9.4 million is personnel costs. $84,000 is for supplies, $2.3 million is for services, $3,000 is for claims and other, and $140,000 is for equipment. The director's office provides the overall coordination and policy direction for the department and manages the fiscal, human resources, community relations, asset management, and legislative processing functions for the whole department. Moving on in 2023 for the refuse collection division, we have a proposed funding level of $67.4 million, all from the general fund. This represents an increase of $13.5 million, or 25.2% over the 2022 operating budget, which is mainly made up of $6 million additional associated with the recycling program, a $2.2 million associated with illegal dumping, solid waste, and reuse convenience centers. This proposed funding level will support 239 full-time personnel that provide trash collection services to more than 344,000 households every week, 52 weeks a year. Of the $67 million proposed budget, $19.1 million, or 28% of the total refuse budget, is related to personnel expenses. $603,500 is for materials and supplies. We have $47 million for services, which is made up of $17.2 million related to recycling and yard waste services. $17.8 million is related to tipping fees at the county landfill, and $10.7 million is for maintenance of the division's fleet. We have $62,000 is allocated for claims and refunds, and another $640,000 is for light-duty equipment. So thanks to Mayor Ginther's leadership, for the first time, the city will be expanding residential recycling collection to once a week beginning the summer of 2023, with an additional budget allocation of $6 million. We expect weekly recycling service will increase the amount of collected recycling materials by 25 to 40%, which will assist the division to propel the initiative to be carbon neutral by the year 2050. This is the cornerstone of the city's climate action plan. So far, the recycling program has been successful. Since the program started back in 2012, through October of this year, residents have recycled almost 326,000 tons of material, saving the city over $17.5 million in tipping fees at the county landfill. So far in 2022 through October 31st, almost 25,000 tons of materials have been recycled, saving over $1.3 million in tipping fees. Also in 2023, we will be investing an additional $2.2 million to continue to tackle illegal dumping. This includes hiring additional solid waste inspectors to educate residents on proper waste disposal and to prosecute cases of illegal dumping in city alleys. Of the 239 full-time personnel, this budget will fund 26 staff members dedicated to support the Clean Neighborhoods Initiative to address the persistent problem of illegal dumping in our neighborhoods. This includes advancing policies like continued replacement of 300-gallon refuse containers with 90-gallon containers, increased staffing numbers to crews dedicated to solid waste inspection and alley cleanup, continued installation of cameras to capture and prosecute illegal dumpers, and the addition of 3 pickup trucks that will assist the city's illegal dumping crews by targeting misuse of and trash overflows in 300-gallon residential container hotspot city alleys. So far this year, illegal dumping initiative has been a great success. Refuse collection crews dedicated to pick up and dispose of illegally dumped materials have picked up almost 3,500 tons of debris. Included in that number is over 38.5 tons, or almost 3,700 tires, that have been illegally dumped in our right-of-way. Enforcement officers from the solid waste inspectors keep increasing too. So far in 2022, 20 criminal cases have been filed with 49 individuals related to illegal dumping. Another 54 civil violations have been issued so far this year under Title 13 Refuse Collection Code changes that took effect in September of 2020. So far this year, $7,075 has been billed for remediation of illegally dumped materials. Also included in this budget proposal is funding for 2 waste and reuse convenience centers at Alum Creek and Georgesville Road refuse collection transfer stations, both of which are scheduled to open next summer. These resources will be available for residents to discard overflow trash, recyclables, bulk items, and yard waste. Plans are also being developed to pilot a new food waste drop-off program at these sites beginning the spring of next year. The 2023 proposed budget for parking services is approximately $20.1 million, an increase of 31.4% or roughly $4.8 million. Most of this increase is due to $3.2 million and associated with more debt charges for the starting and after park garages than what was in 2022. Of the $20.1 million, $5.3 million is allocated for personnel, $191,000 is for supplies, $10.1 million is for services, $53,000 is for claims and refunds, $4.3 million is for debt service, both principal and interest, and $120,000 is for equipment. The Division of Parking Services is responsible for the administration, enforcement, operations, and management of both on-street and off-street public parking in the city of Columbus. The Parking Services Division is supported by the new Mobility Enterprise Fund, with revenues coming from on-street parking and permitting at $9.8 million, off-street parking, which would be the garages, at $3.7 million, and parking ticket revenue at $5.4 million, and $675,000 in miscellaneous revenue. The creation of the Mobility Enterprise has allowed for the holistic management of all city mobility assets within a sustainable, long-term, self-supporting program. Moving on to the Division of Infrastructure Management, the 2023 total budget request is approximately $41 million. It's an increase of 3.7% or roughly $1.5 million. This is all within the Street Construction Maintenance and Repair Fund. Of the $41 million, $19.3 million is allocated for personnel. We have another $1.4 million for supplies, $18.5 is for services, $70,000 for claims and refunds, and $1.8 million is equipment and building repairs for the outposts. The Division of Infrastructure Management is responsible for delivering all services related to managing the transportation infrastructure, including pavement and structures management, right-of-way permit reviews, and long-range planning. The division provides street maintenance services within the Columbus City right-of-way, including street sweeping, litter control, graffiti removal, and snow and ice removal. This budget also includes $1 million to design and construct ADA-compliant curb ramps throughout the city. Our snow warriors are ready for winter this year. We begin this winter season with approximately 132 trucks, plus an additional equipment support from other departments, which takes us up to almost 170 vehicles that can plow snow. Our internal infrastructure frontline operators are roughly 120 staff members, and we have trained an additional 100 people or staff members from either from groups of other departments as well as within our own department on non-CDL equipment to help us get into the neighborhoods earlier this year to treat these residential streets during major snow events. We also continue to utilize groups from Recreation and Parks and Department of Public Utilities and Refuse and Traffic for these events also. We currently have about 33,000 tons of salt on hand, and our capacity is about 34,000 tons. So we got pretty much full barns across the city without most of our outposts. Typically in the season we use 17 to 25,000 tons. So we're confident that we currently already have enough salt on hand for this winter. But we do have the additional purchasing capacity through our contract with ODOT to buy more salt if we need it. But I think we're pretty well set that we're not going to use as much as that we have currently on hand. We also have over 178,000 gallons of anti-icing and de-icing chemicals on hand with the ability to manufacture an additional 42,000 gallons of brine. We also have the ability to order more of these materials as well. The division continues to make enhancements to its Warrior Watch system. This is a system where residents can go online and kind of see how we're doing, what streets are being plowed, which ones have we got to, which ones we haven't. We're continuing to make continual upgrades to this. That website is warriorwatch.columbus.gov. So if you can go there and kind of check out during the snow event how we're exactly doing. It's not quite real time, but it's close to real time that we can get. So you'll see within like an hour or two of when your street has been treated. Moving on to the traffic management division. Traffic management is making our streets safer for motorists, pedestrians, and bicyclists. The division's 2023 total proposed budget is $23.4 million, all from the Street Construction Maintenance and Repair Fund. This represents a 4.2% increase over the 2022 budget. Of the $23.4 million, $13.5 million is allocated for personnel, $2.5 million is for supplies, $3.3 million is for services. We have $36,000 for claims and refunds, as well as $4 million for equipment and traffic signal installations. The Traffic Management Division is responsible for planning, educating, and advocating for greater mobility of the various roadway users to ensure a safe and efficient transportation system for pedestrians, bicyclists, and vehicular traffic, as well as improving neighborhood livability and safety. Included in this year's budget proposal is continuing the installation and replacement and/or refurbishment of traffic signals in the amount of $3.6 million, and $2 million for the division's traffic commodities, which includes permanent pavement markings, traffic signage, school signals, and traffic signal parts. Lastly, we have the Division of Design and Construction's 2023 proposed budget is $23.9 million. This represents approximately a 7.6% increase or $1.7 million over the 2022 operating budget, which includes $6.9 million within the Street Construction Maintenance and Repair Fund, $11.8 million within the Construction Inspection Private Fund, as well as $5.1 million from the Construction Inspection Private Fund. Of the $23.9 million, $17.7 million is allocated for personnel, $227,000 is supplies, $5.4 million is for services, $13.5 million is for claims and refunds, and $560,000 is for equipment. The Division of Design and Construction is responsible for developing quality construction plans, managing design contracts, and enabling the department to build and maintain a safe and efficient transportation system. In addition, the division manages construction contracts, providing quality and timely construction inspection, surveying, and materials testing services in support of public service, public utilities, and privately funded infrastructure construction projects. That concludes my presentation of the 2023 Department of Public Service operating budget. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Do have a couple questions. I want to start with our weekly recycling program. So this is a pretty significant investment. We're making $6 million. Can you talk a little bit about, first of all, what moved us into making that sort of an investment, moving to weekly recycling, and just a bit more about the program? You kind of gave us a broader overview, but what can residents expect?
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember. We made the move to go to weekly recycling. That definitely we saw a need. We saw the community asking a lot of questions about when we were going to provide weekly recycling services, because what we saw is a lot of residents were filling up their recycling bins, and once they were full, they would just, without having an additional bin or weekly recycling, they were just throwing it into their regular trash bin. So this will give the opportunity for people to recycle more. So this is really a big part of our climate action plan. So it is going to allow us to get to the point where hopefully by the year 2050, we are recycling 95% of all the materials that can be recycled will be recycled. So it's really moving us closer to that goal within the climate action plan of recycling more materials and keeping them out of the county landfill.
Great. And will folks be receiving additional recycling bins, or are we at that level of specificity around the program, or not quite yet?
We're currently not at that level of specificity, but currently they'll just be using the one can. They can purchase another can at a discounted price through our refuse collection division. It's substantially discounted. It's like, I think it's $40 for an additional can. So they can purchase another one to fill that up also.
Great. A little along, switching gears for just a second, talking about traffic management, especially as we're looking at the growth in the city. And, last night we had a pretty long zoning meeting, and I know that we get a lot of feedback from residents just around new housing, construction projects, which obviously causes a disruption in, their roadways around where residents may be living, but also new developments tend to be a real concern for folks. So as we think about new developments and when they're going into neighborhoods, can you talk a little bit about the relationship between public service and development and how they interact and coordinate when we review zoning applications and continue engaging developers to ensure that infrastructure can support that influx of those new residents around those development?
Yes, thank you, Councilmember, for that question. Yes, there is a lot of coordination that happens between the development department, the traffic and engineering department division, as well as the refuse collection division, because you think about as these developments are spreading out and getting throughout the outskirts of Columbus, it's getting out of our service area also. So there is a lot of coordination with development, with our traffic shop, and with refuse collection to see what the impact is going to be on those different developments on to our services that we can support. Specifically in the traffic side, as you're mentioning, Councilmember, we do work with the developer also. We require them as a part of the development project to do a traffic impact study. And you'll see that a lot that's happening on the west side now with a lot of development that's going on. And we are doing, thanks to the council, a complete traffic impact study of the Tribune Road corridor. So you'll see a lot of that going on as the development projects pop up, that we're working with development, the developer, traffic, and refuse to coordinate what the impacts are going to be in the citizens and Columbus as we move forward with our services.
And along those lines, I know that we also make a significant investment in just thinking about traffic studies in the budget. I think we currently have something around like 100. I could This is dangerous when I start quoting these numbers. Unless I get it right, then it's a good thing. But can you give us some information on where some of those traffic studies are happening currently? I mean, maybe some of the ones that are at the top of the list. I know last night we had lots of conversation about the Livingston Avenue corridor, which I know we're going to be launching a traffic study in that area. But can you share a little bit more about that process, what we're looking at in 2023, and then also just generally for folks, we get lots of questions around this, but just a general, what is the process if folks are interested in that?
Okay. Yes, council member. Yes, we do have a lot of studies going on. I won't quote the exact number because I don't know the exact number. The first one that came to mind was the Livingston Avenue study. A lot of the studies, it's kind of a dual attack on them, I guess, for lack of a better word. The smaller studies we kind of do with our in-house design staff, so that is necessarily a part of our operating budget. And then some of the bigger studies like the Livingston Avenue corridors and things of that, we hire outside engineers to help us with some of those bigger studies. So you'll see that portion of it come through our capital budget, kind of. But as far as a lot of these ones that are smaller, our internal staff do it, it's part of our operating budget. We address those through 311. So if residents would like to, they see something going on and they need to, have us come out and do a traffic study of a certain neighborhood. I know we're doing looking at a lot of issues that are going on the Erie side too right now, and just kind of looking at traffic flows and how we can help with some of the things that are going on. But 311 is a great resource. I mean, that's the starting point. It logs it, and then we go off of that when we're doing some of these internal studies.
Great. And thank you for making the distinction between the capital budget and our department budget, because I think it's important for folks to know, especially as we talk about roadway improvements. I mean, it's a pretty monumental effort and takes a long time. And so I think putting that in perspective for our residents, I just think is important. So thank you for elevating that.
Yeah.
So this year we also made a big switch with parking services, which you touched on as well in the budget. Moving to this application with kiosks, I know that it's still, folks are still getting, personally, as a person who doesn't remember what cash or coins even looks like, I love the fact that and so does my husband and our bank account, that I can just go onto my app, and it reminds me that I need to put more money in the virtual meter, if you will. But can you talk a little bit about what the feedback has been from residents and community members around the switch over to the parking kiosks? And then are there other changes that we can expect in 2023 as it pertains to parking specifically?
Yeah, thank you, council member. Yeah, I think that we've gotten a lot of good feedback on the kiosk. More specifically, it's one point of contact, and you don't have as many issues with maintenance and maintaining and keeping the meters working or swapping them out, or less issues. I know in the wintertime, especially with the older meters, the buttons didn't quite work right. So we had a lot of complaints with those. The kiosks are going to be better at that once we go through this winter season. But I'm like you, I go through the app for everything. That way you can just get reminders. I get like 5 reminders from one parking incident. It's kind of crazy, but it's useful. So it's avoiding those extra enforcement dollars that you see that I was talking about earlier. I think we've gotten good feedback for the multiple ways that you can pay to park. So it's not just the meter, it's the app, it's the kiosk. You can pay with your phone, you can pay by text. So there's just a lot of different options out there. Or you can still pay with coin or cash. So there's just a lot of different options that are out there. As far as we're also taking on the garages. So that's kind of new for us starting this year and moving into next year. So we're managing the city's 5 parking garages now. 2 of them are, one just finished construction. It's the Starling Street garage, as well as the Confluence Village garage, which is over by Crew Stadium. So we're taking on that resource also. So there'll be some changes there that you'll see coming about. And we'll just mostly be looking at mobility in general, not just parking per se or garage or on street, but we're looking at different mobility devices also. It could be a scooter, it could be an e-bike, it could be a shared vehicle or something of that nature. So we're trying to move those initiatives forward as well through the parking mobility enterprise division.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you for those updates and thank you for running through the budget. I also just want to say, I really also believe there's actually more parking now that the meters are gone, just because you can fit more vehicles in a space. I'm just putting in a plug for I know it's a switch for folks, but I want to thank you again for all of your hard work. Thank you for going through that budget and answering those questions. I know I kind of put you in the hot seat because I don't think you got the questions beforehand, but appreciate you being here and appreciate all the hard work and the partnership that we've had with Public Service and Transportation. Again, looking forward to some of the projects that we have for next year, especially as it pertains to tactical urbanism and some of the mobility hubs and multimodal options that we're looking at implementing in 2023. So thank you for that. We're going to move on. This is actually not a specific department. It's embedded in the department. It is an important part of our committee work and one that we have leaned into as we think about our work. Certainly, as I came onto council as a person who has both folks who have served in the military, and I have a very dear older citizen, also called Mommy, in my life, and that is my goal to one day have the esteemed honor to be an older citizen. I believe in some communities they're called honored citizens. I wanted to make sure that we spent some time today just talking about the work that we're doing in both veterans and in senior affairs and elevate that work to ensure that this is an everyday part of everything that we do. I mean, this is embedded in our neighborhoods. This is embedded in public service and transportation. It's a part of all the work that we do. I like to say with our committees, this is who the people are, where the people live, and how the people move. And so we're going to talk a little bit about who the people are. So I want to first start with, and I said this, blame it on the heart. Blame it on the head and not the heart is what I meant to say, Zane Jones, who, when I talked about the strong women leadership that we also have a current service member who is not only helping to lead the work of the city around veterans, but also serving our country himself. And I want to thank you for your service. I want to turn it over to you so you can talk a little bit about our efforts around veteran services here at the City of Columbus.
I appreciate that thoughtful introduction. Good evening, Chair Barroso de Padilla. Thank you for the opportunity to come here this evening and speak, even though, as you know, we don't maintain a budget, nor are we asking for one in the upcoming year. The role of Veteran Services Liaison and ADA Coordinator housed in Human Resources serves both internal and external clients on a variety of issues facing both veterans and people living with disabilities. The work that is performed is done conversationally, one-on-one with each person that calls reaching out for assistance. Most often, the employees and residents who reach out to us are seeking to navigate a robust but confusing local landscape when it comes to veteran services or benefits, or get some clarification regarding the 1991 American with Disabilities Act and the manner in which it can assist them in daily life or protect them. Frequently, these people are in crisis or experiencing hardship, and every single one of them deserves to be heard. It goes without saying that it's a privilege to do this work and serve our employees. It's worth noting that 1,000 of our employees, roughly 10%, are veterans. 200 of them are serving in either the National Guard or Reserve component, meaning that they're not totally done. They serve both at the city and then they serve as well in uniform. Of our residents, there are 40,000 residents of the city of Columbus that are veterans, 100,000 if you consider the entire MSA, and 13% of our population lives with a disability. So there's a lot of work to do. 2022 saw the return of much of our public-facing events that were standard pre-COVID. We had the Veterans Day Parade, which we partner with Milvets on, the Columbus Veteran Employee Appreciation Lunch, one of my favorites, the 9/11 Remembrance Ceremony, and of course, our bi-monthly meetings of the Columbus Advisory Committee on Disability Issues, whom we have many members sitting here to my left. And I have a ton of appreciation for each and every one of them. Of note, as I'm sure you're well aware, this year through a grant with the VA and in cooperation with Rex and Parks, we were able to add therapeutic air pistol to their adaptive sports programming. I serve as the coach and was very excited to get that going, and we'll be able to grow it in 2023. And of course, I am personally thankful to you and to members of council and to Mayor Ginther for your engagement, support, and advocacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Zane. I also, this year we were able to declare it Veterans Week, not just Veterans Day in the city of Columbus, and we look forward to continued partnership. I also want to say, in our process of listening and learning, this is a spoiler alert, I've been saying this throughout the year that we are Veteran, Senior, and Disability Affairs. We're actually going to codify that into our committee next year and make that an official part of our work, because we do have an understanding that there are folks who could be part of all three communities, but understanding that they are separate communities with separate needs, but that this is something that we want to make, again, part of our everyday work here, certainly at council, but also the work that we do when we're partnering with both of the organizations that we'll talk to in a second, but also certainly with you and our veterans community. And we look forward to continuing to uplift the over, I think, 300 programs that are here just in Central Ohio that support our veterans and those that are currently serving. So again, thank you for your work. You are an incredible one-person shop, and we're excited to be part of the Zane Jones team. So now I want to welcome our the director of the Central Ohio Area Agency on Aging, Katie White, and Government and Community Affairs Manager, and a good friend, welcome home, Grant Ames, back to council to talk a little bit about your work and budget priorities in 2023. So take it away, Director.
Good evening, Chair Barroso de Padilla. Thank you so much, first and foremost, for having us here this evening. I know our presentation is a bit different than many of the others, but truly appreciate the opportunity to share our work and hopefully connect residents that are watching to resources should they need them. So I will start off just by sharing that the Central Ohio Area Agency on Aging, as you mentioned, is part of the City of Columbus Recreation and Park Division, and we actually serve an 8-county region. So for tonight's purposes, our budget and different numbers that you will hear from my colleague and I are about that 8-county region. But of course, being employees of the City of Columbus, this is really an important part of our work. So much of what we'll talk about tonight is also about growth. Our growth is in terms of number of individuals that we are serving, whether they are older adults, people with disabilities, or as we'll talk about on the next slide, caregivers. But both in volume and in severity, our numbers are growing quickly. And so we are working hard to also grow our budget and our staff to keep up with the pace of that growth. A lot of what we do are direct client services, care management. Again, you'll hear more about our specific numbers, but it's also really important to talk about the challenges and realities that caregivers are experiencing right now. This has been a really challenging few years, of course, because of COVID, but we are seeing even more so now a crisis around not having enough caregivers in our community, whether those are paid caregivers, or family caregivers, and people making the tough decision to either leave the workforce to provide care for their loved one because there isn't a paid caregiver available, or just having to make those difficult decisions because the care, if they are caring for their children and also caring for their parents. So we try to do a lot of support groups and education sessions, and we also have some funding available just as much as we can to support our caregivers in the community. The Central Ohio Area Agency on Aging is part of a national network. So the Federal Older Americans Act mandated that every U.S. citizen should be served by an area agency on aging. There are 12 in Ohio. I mentioned that your COAAA serves 8 counties, so Franklin County and the 7 contiguous around it. And each area agency on aging receives federal funds, state, local, levy dollars, so that they can really react to local and specific needs, but the majority do these 4 core functions. So we fund home and community-based services for older adults to the tune of about $6 million of Older Americans Act Title III funds invested in our service area, and those go to service providers, Meals on Wheels, adult day services, things of that nature. We also provide information assistance and education about aging and disability issues and programs. So if anyone has to call ranging from wanting to learn about Medicare to getting a list of assisted livings to just understanding how to navigate aging and disability, they call our number, and you'll hear about our number of calls here in a moment that we provide every year. We also do a lot of advocacy, whether that's at the city level. Thank you again for having us here tonight. The county level, we obviously serve the Central Ohio region, and we work at the state and federal levels as well. We advocate with and for older adults as well as their caregivers, I should mention too. And then finally, we administer Medicaid waiver programs, so those care management and case management numbers that you'll see here in a moment. We are serving many individuals in Columbus, Franklin County, and each of our counties surrounding. We always like to share this slide just to show our federal mandate through the Administration for Community Living. So our funds flow from the federal level into our state unit office on aging, and then is divided among the area agencies on aging across the state according to specific data regarding how many older adults, people with disabilities, individuals that are low income, et cetera. And then we work with our local funding, whether that's levies, to try to blend as much of the funding as possible to get that into the homes and hands of individuals that need it. So while we don't have a large 2023 operating budget to discuss with everyone, we do receive $182,000 annually from the city that flows through Rec and Parks. But our overall budget is about $100 million, 96 of which comes from the federal level, about $1 million from the state, and 5.3 from Franklin County. So I will hand it over to Grant, our Government and Community Affairs Manager, to talk about some of the specifics of our wonderful staff services.
So I will not go into much detail because there's a lot of information, but I'll just kind of do an overview of the number of folks that we're serving on an annual basis, kind of get into a little bit of the programming, but ultimately the beauty of COAAA is we have a phone number and great folks that help folks navigate this process and get them to the right services and get them to the right waiver program. So can't plug that enough. We'll have our contact information at the end, but that'll help folks that are looking for more information can absolutely get in contact with us and follow up. So I'll start kind of by looking at just talking about our mission. So providing services, resources, information to older adults, people with disabilities, and family caregivers and professionals. We are also a main provider of CEUs, so continuing education credits for social workers or folks in this field to make sure that they're up to date on all of the issues that older adults and people with disabilities are facing and making sure that they have those resources. We have 386 staff currently employed with the agency. We're close to full staff. We certainly have vacancies, as everyone does, but certainly those folks are doing incredible work and making sure that our folks are cared for. Over the past 10 years, we've seen our staff grow significantly. We've actually had about 154 new staff members since 2011, so almost doubling that number. And as I kind of go into in the next slide, you'll see why we need to do that. So we provide services to nearly 13,000 or a little bit over 13,500 folks annually. Those are through all of the programs that we offer, or a majority of the programs that we offer. All of these provide similar levels of care, but are dependent on the individual's Medicaid accessibility, Medicare coverage, or the level of disability and age that the individual is at. Again, these are all available to everyone in Central Ohio. This is not an income-based by any means. It simply are factors in regards to an individual's age and potentially their level of disability. And we'll just make a plug for our Franklin County Senior Options that really allows us some more flexibility. The federal and state dollars are very specific at what they require of us, and that Franklin County Senior Options Levy is something that the voters support us as they did in November, and certainly make sure that we can provide diverse services to folks that may not necessarily fit in the boxes of any of our other programs that we offer, but certainly wanted to make sure that we can provide them with that support. Mainly the focus for this care management is making sure that we can provide in-home care services and community-based services to folks. I want to make it clear that the majority of folks that we're working with are nursing home level of care. So they would require nursing home level of care, but because of the services that our folks offer, it allows them to stay in the community, stay in their homes, be where they want to be. It's cheaper for the statewide system for them to be at home than for them to be in a nursing home. And we're also seeing that the outcomes are a lot better for the folks that are staying at home and not necessarily in those nursing facilities. Nothing wrong with nursing homes, certainly, but especially as we've seen with the pandemic, folks much prefer to stay at home, and the vital services that we provide make sure that they can do that. Thank you. We also do a significant number of assessments. We have a staff at COAAA that will go in. They either do the assessments on the phone or in person, meet with older adults or their caregiver, look at the environment that they're living in, and then help get them connected with the appropriate waiver care program. So as you can see, almost 17,000 assessments were completed in 2022. I would imagine that number will continue to increase over time as we see the older adult population continue to grow. Care transition. So this is another program that we offer. Pretty much what they do is they connect with older adults as they're in the hospital and make sure that they have a care plan as they're going home. Our focus is to make sure that they're not readmitted to the hospital, and we've seen a really great number. That number is dropped in half from 16% to 8%, with our care transition managers kind of getting involved in making sure that those folks have a follow-up plan, have services provided, and are able to get connected with appropriate care. A program that we do partner with the city pretty robustly on is our Spark program. So it was started in 2018. We only had one person. This is a program that's embedded in the Columbus Division of Fire. We have social workers that are embedded in that program. Pretty much the focus of it is to connect with high volume users of EMS as their primary form of medical care or their primary form of transportation to medical services, and trying to get them connected to other services and other supports so they're not relying on EMS. Since that program started in 2018, it's exploded. I think the need has really come through with what we've been seeing in the numbers. We have 3 folks that are currently connected with that program. One supervisor, Megan Gish, as she's pictured there, was interviewed for an ABC6 story a few weeks ago. And then we have 2 social workers that are assigned to that team. They serviced, the 3 of them, almost 2,000 folks last year, or this year, with the fire division. And certainly we can see the Division of Fire really wanting this resource. And we're hoping, based on the amount of resources that we have, to hopefully expand within 2023 to make sure that we have that 2,000 number. We probably have about 3,500, maybe a little bit more, that actually need the service. So making sure that we have the staffing levels to provide that care. Another big part, and I know Director White touched on it a little bit, is providing that education and outreach. We provide education and outreach services to caregivers and older adults as well as individuals with disabilities. One of the major things I'd like to highlight here is we provide a lot of education and technical support to people who are getting to that point where they need to move into the Medicare system. We provide them with a lot of information about how to sign up for Medicare, how to transition from their current health insurance provider to Medicare, and making sure that they have everything that they need as they move into that next period of their life, especially looking at Part D comparisons and other things like that. We also provide a lot of community education and outreach resources. So we provide evidence-based programming like Matter of Balance, specifically focused on fall risk prevention and other things like that. We have a volunteer guardian program, which matches individuals in nursing homes with legal guardians through probate courts. So this allows volunteers that are vetted and certainly capable of speaking on behalf of an older adult that may have some difficulty doing that themselves, and getting them connected and through that process as best as possible. In 2019, we had about 109 folks that were connected with that program. We currently do a friendly caller program, and hoping to bolster that in 2023 as well. That's a program that we have volunteers call older adults either weekly or bi-weekly, just to check in, see how they're doing, be a friendly voice on the other side of the phone, and make sure that they're not feeling as isolated. That's absolutely something that we've been noticing in the conversations that we've been having with older adults in the last year or so, and making sure that isolation factor coming out of the pandemic isn't something that is impacting their quality of life negatively. So certainly that's something that we're hoping to bolster, and we think it's really great work. We've also been we've also hosted events around World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, just making sure that we're educating the community. We had a webinar with about 100 folks attending to talk about what resources are available, what types of things caregivers can do and older adults can do to advocate for themselves and make sure that they're protected from either online scams, as I'm sure we're all aware of, but also mistreatment in nursing facilities, other things like that. And then finally, I will kick it back to Director White. I just wanted to highlight the gift drive that we put on every year. Tamara James in our office is excellent and puts this on every year. We have about 1,500 consumers that receive specific gifts that they ask their case managers for, and we coordinate to make sure that they're getting anything from a toaster oven to a cozy robe, just making sure that they feel cared for and loved this time of year. So we just finished that up. Our education room was full of hundreds of gifts, I would say, over the last week. So we have a few left that we're still getting out the door, but it was just a really wonderful time of year. And with that, I will pass it back over to Director White to talk about some of the findings of the regional assessment that was conducted in 2021.
Thank you so much. So I will, I'm just going to briefly do this because I know we've got some esteemed colleagues that need to speak tonight as well, but just wanted to mention that as we think about our investments in 2023 and what our priority areas will be, we're really looking at ensuring that we're evidence-based and data-driven in our decisions. That becomes possible through a partnership with the Age-Friendly Innovation Center and our Central Ohio Regional Assessment on Aging. So we do have a dashboard available that the public can use, and it goes across the 8-county region. You can look at zip codes, you can look at counties, not zip codes, you can look at any demographic area, you can look at Columbus and our various counties as well. So as Grant mentioned, we are looking at serious growth, not only in our staff, but in our clients. 400 staff members doing amazing work in people's homes in really difficult situations. Other staff members ensuring that assisted livings and housing are doing, what they should be doing and auditing that. And of course, serving 13,500 clients through case management. Again, as Grant mentioned, some of that is income-based, but we also have many services that are not income-based. So please, if people have questions, if they need anything, give us a call, and our staff will definitely get you what you need. So finally, again, just want to say that we'll be utilizing data to have some specific conversations in the community, whether through partners with the Age-Friendly Innovation Center, follow-up from our big table conversations, and making sure that we're intentionally leaning in areas that have a high need, re-looking at not only our clinical determinants of health, but also our social determinants of health, and opening up those community the communication channels in the community and with staff members to really make sure we know what's going on and we know what people need. Any questions?
I do have a couple quick questions before we move over to our friends at Age Friendly. Can you talk a little bit about, I know that we serve, 8 or 9 counties?
8.
I think on those 8. How do the needs of Columbus and Franklin County, how would you say that they compare to the other service areas of COAAA in terms of need and just like generally population, the diversity of the population?
That's a great question, and also I can put another robust report together thanks to the dashboard, but just in general, you know, the needs in urban areas are different than those in the rural areas. We have a lot more density in terms of who we're serving. Unfortunately, we are seeing that individuals are retiring with less income, and so really very serious financial challenges. We've got a lack of housing that is not just in Columbus, but across our 8-county region. I will also say that, interestingly enough, we have a very large immigrant, refugee, and migrant population in our outer counties, specifically Licking County. And so I think it's, I don't know, upwards of like 70% of one of our case management programs called Passport are immigrant, refugee, and migrants. So it really just kind of depends on which county and which area that we are looking at. But I will tell you that one of our 2023 priorities is to ensure that we're out in all the counties, working with our partners and making sure that if we need to make some changes in funding or program services, that we can do that.
And actually, I have a follow-up question that was actually right along those lines. Like, I know that the majority with the assessment, the strategic plan area needs assessment, that is a mouthful, that was conducted by COAAA, found that a majority of the residents that were part of the Passport program, English was not their first language.
Correct.
So how is COAAA handling the needs of those population, and how are we communicating with them? How are we getting through some of those language or cultural barriers that may exist?
Great question. So first of all, we have a strategic area plan that aligns with the Ohio Department on Aging plan, and that is one of our focus areas. And so we have a portion of our budget dedicated to interpretation and translation. They'll come out with us on our home visits. If individuals don't want a home visit, then we utilize those services over the phone. We're looking at our different materials and making sure that those are translated. We have staff members in a committee dedicated to diversity, equity, inclusion trainings, and really a lot of leadership coming from our staff to say, you know, most of my caseload is Somali, and we actually have a couple of different ideas that we want to be able to bring to that population that might be a little bit different. And so trying as much as possible to be responsive and proactive in that area.
Thank you. And I think it's just an interesting statistic, I think, as we look at the population, because I think that people think, as, you know, we talk about immigrants, migrants, or refugees being the number one factor behind our population growth. And I think that people tend to think younger or families. So I think the fact that we have a growing older population is interesting. And I appreciate the work that we're doing. And I think, you know, as we host immigrant and migrant town halls and refugee town halls, I think it'll be interesting to see what comes of that work and how we can better partner with COAAA to address some of those needs, especially of those older residents. I also want to just say thank you for, I came out to the gift drive with
You
Bessa.
did? Oh, I missed you.
And it was much
Great.
more than just your training room. It was like every room. Y'all were busting at the seams
We
of
were.
the generosity of this community.
Yes.
And folks just kept coming well after the 2:00 time. So it was great to be out there, and I was blown away by the amount of, I mean, and not just fuzzy blankets, I mean, like kitty litter and taking care of people's pets.
Yes.
And just,
Yes.
and folks bringing additional gifts for our seniors and ensuring that they also feel the generosity and the love and the warmth of their community during this season. So thank you for putting that together, and thank you for housing that in the incredible system that was like flawless and seamless of getting those gifts out the door. Was, again, I was so impressed. So thank you for that.
Thank you, and
I
thanks
want
for showing up.
to
Appreciate
also
that.
recognize our other partners who are here and give them some time to talk a little bit about their work. Excited about the pilot program that we announced last night around weather-related emergencies and how do we ensure that we're caring for our seniors during that time. So I want to hand over the floor to Director Marisa Sheldon and Assistant Director Christine Happel. Did I say it right, Christine? Great. I was nervous about that.
Thank you. Chair Barroso Di Padilla, for the chance to be here and for supporting older adults in the community. My name is Christine Happel. I am the Assistant Director of the Age-Friendly Innovation Center in Age-Friendly Columbus and Franklin County, a program of the Ohio State University College of Social Work. And as you mentioned, I'm joined here today by our Director, Marisha Sheldon, and I'm honored to sit alongside such a set of wonderful colleagues as well. Since joining the Age-Friendly Communities Network in 2016, Columbus has been recognized as one of the leading U.S. cities in this work. This recognition and innovative leadership would not be possible without the support of the Veterans and Senior Affairs Committee and Columbus City Council. Bolstered by this committee, Age-Friendly in 2022 was able to reaffirm and deepen our commitment to listening and elevating the diverse voices of older residents. Funding from this committee's support, community conversations specific to the LGBTQIA+ older adult experience in Columbus. It endowed the time and capacity to engage with diverse grassroots organizations like the Urban Aging Residents Coalition, led by an older East Side resident and community champion, Ms. Pamela Shields. We have some photos for you all to enjoy. This funding provided the ability to use translation and interpretation services to ensure we connected with the older New American residents and enabled us to feature the diversity that exists among our older adults, specifically through our photos and publications. A final highlight from 2022 was the opportunity to bring together a cohort of cross-sector age-friendly scholars, shaping the next generation of professionals in aging. Age-Friendly and our local aging network are grounded in the fact that we are all aging and that this is something to be celebrated. While we celebrate this, we also recognize that there's a long way to go to ensure equity in the way we age. So in 2023, with the funding of $60,000, Age-Friendly will prioritize collaboration with diverse groups of older adults to elevate community change based in data, research, and most importantly, the voices of the experienced experts, the older adults themselves. In 2023, building from collective efforts launched through our Big Table conversation, Age-Friendly will work to increase emergency preparedness through community-engaged research with residents of an affordable housing building, establishing Columbus as a leader in visioning more climate-resilient communities. Age-Friendly will continue engagement with LGBTQ older adults to explore innovative ways to build community. And additionally, the support of this committee will further refine our communication approaches, a critical thread in the work of Age-Friendly and a foundational component to the success of the entire local aging network. Without the Veterans and Senior Affairs Committee support and collaboration, the work and impact of Age-Friendly Columbus and Franklin County and the Age-Friendly Innovation Center would be much smaller. Age-Friendly, our entire aging network, and our older residents benefit from your leadership. The success of our city is not possible without creating a more age-friendly community that works for people with all ages, and we appreciate and applaud the investment of this committee. So if you're interested in learning more, please don't hesitate to reach out. We don't have phone numbers, but we have email that we love to answer, and we even more love to sit down with folks in person. So thank you.
And I do have one question, especially for folks who may be watching. How does Age-Friendly specifically work with COAAA and other organizations? Because I think one of the beautiful things about Age-Friendly is the ideation and the partnership with our older adults to really think outside the box about how can we be innovative, working with different identities, working with different populations to say how do we address the needs of this particular community. So can you talk a little bit about how you kind of bring that to center, bring those ideas to fruition in your process?
Absolutely. Thank you for that wonderful question. Age-Friendly exists to support the aging network. We are lucky to not have clients that we serve day to day like many of our partners across the community. So we really have the ability to take our time to listen to our residents and to do that in a grounded way through research best practices being a part of the university. And then we get to take that to our partners and say, pilot this idea or use this to leverage new funding to try something something because we don't have to serve folks day to day. And we know that the pace of practice and the growth of our aging population really pulls other community organizations away from that. And not that they're not trying, but it's been a really powerful investment from our city, from our county, to say that we need someone who's focusing just on looking at that and growing the ideas and the listening that can happen to help the rest of our aging network. So great. Appreciate the question.
Thank you. Thank you for elevating that. I am, like I've said, excited about the work that we'll continue to do together, and also excited for my friends in aging, where this year, I'm going to say it here because I feel like when you put things out into the world, they happen. We talked about an engagement event for our older citizens. I'm excited to partner with all of you to make that happen so we truly can bring people back together again. Something from the beginning that we've heard, especially with our older adults, that they do like to be at home, but they also love to be in community, right? So bringing that opportunity back to the community will be great, and I'm excited to work with all of you to continue to do that. So thank you for the work that you do every day, and thank you for being here this evening. And now that brings us to the front door to the city of Columbus. It's where people live. It is our neighborhood's Immigrant, Refugee, and Migrant Affairs Committee, the fantastic team that helps to lead so many of our great initiatives at really what I always say is the heartbeat of our city is in our neighborhoods. It's the thing that is the best of us. It's where people literally live, where they feel safe, where they raise their families, where they are in community with each other. So I'm excited to turn the floor over to Director William Scott and Deputy Director Todd Diefendorfer.
Good evening, Chair Barosa de Padilla, and thank you for having us this evening. Again, I'm Carla Williams Scott, Director of the Department of Neighborhoods, and joining me is Todd Diefendorfer, our Deputy Director. We're excited to share with you our proposed 2023 operating budget proposal this evening. For 2023, the department's proposed operating budget is $10,039,511. This includes an authorized strength of 65 full-time and 2 part-time student interns. Funding for this proposed budget is just over $1 million from our 2022 budget and an additional 13 full-time staff, 10 new staff in our 311 Customer Service Center, 1 new team member in our New American Programming, and the addition of 2 team members for the Commission on Black Girls Work. The work funded in our budget proposal is fully aligned with Opportunity Rising, Mayor Ginther's aspirations for every resident in our city. Opportunity Rising recognizes that while Columbus is a city on the rise, Columbus's residents of color continue to be impacted by the result of years of systemic racism. By aligning with Opportunity Rising, the Department of Neighborhoods is focused on racial equity in the programming we offer, how we deliver services, the makeup of our staff, and who we contract with. Our work contributes to nearly all 21 of the Opportunity Rising rays and outcomes. We are especially focused in the following 3 rays. The Community Collaboration Ray, which wants every resident to collaborate with their city to create the community that they wish to live in. This relates to the following areas of our work that include providing support for our 21 area commissions and 242 area commissioners, the 311 Customer Service Center, neighborhood liaisons, and our Rise Up C-Bus program, New American Programming, and the Community Relations Commission. The Youth Ray is focused on advancing the outcome that every young person can find safety and engagement in their neighborhood outside of school hours. The programming and activities of My Brother's Keeper, the Commission on Black Girls, and our summer youth programming are tied to this ray. The Neighborhood Building Ray seeks to achieve a goal that every neighborhood has infrastructure, green space, and programs to support healthy living. Our comprehensive community planning work in both the Linden and Hilltop, and soon to be work in the Eastland area, is aligned in this outcome. 2022 was an exciting year for the department. With the community reopening, we launched a number of new and updated programs that will continue in 2023. The 311 system refresh launched in April of this year with an updated and more user-friendly website and a mobile app for our residents. To ensure that we're providing excellent customer service for the more than 500,000 customer contacts we receive each year through 311, we are adding 10 new team members to the team. For the first time, 311 customer service representatives will be located at our neighborhood pride centers. This will allow residents to meet with a representative in person to submit or follow up on a service request. The team has also met with area commissions and civic groups to build understanding and use of the system. This outreach will continue in 2023 as we work to increase 311 usage in communities where there is currently an underutilization. Rise Up C-Bus launched in 2022. This is an update to the longstanding Neighborhood Pride program. This program brought 9 engaging events to neighborhoods across Columbus. Partnering with our colleagues in Recreation and Parks, each event highlighted city services and community resources available now to help our residents achieve outcomes within each of the 21 Opportunity Rising Rays. This program will also continue in 2023. My Brother's Keeper continued to innovate and expand work focused on improving outcomes for boys and young men of color and underserved youth. In 2022, over 700 students were served through our summer youth programming and internships. Some examples of this program included The Heart of Job, which served 30 young people who learned out-of-the-box thinking, research skills, and technology-based STEAM, science, technology, engineering, and math learning through media and media production. The Ohio State University Fisher College of Business summer program, where 50 youth participated in a week-long pre-college summer business residential program on the campus of The Ohio State University. Participants received an introduction to college life and experience, as well as exposure to course offerings and majors in business, education, finance, leadership, and technology. The City of Columbus Youth Services Partnership was launched to establish cross-departmental information sharing and coordination to implement the Above and Beyond campaign. This campaign is focused on training adult allies to engage with our youth and help them with issues such as substance abuse, mental health, and issues related to achieving school success. This work will also continue into 2023. The Commission on Black Girls became a part of the Department of Neighborhoods in 2022. The Commission's work ensures that we cultivate an environment and have resources we need to support the success of Black girls in Columbus. During 2022, the Commission established an advisory board, and collaborative work was done with a cohort of 5 grantees to support our young Black girls in the community. This included programming to address issues such as self-esteem and trauma, and supporting our girls by distributing over 500 backpacks filled with school supplies throughout the Columbus community. In 2023, this work will continue, along with the launch of a new website for the Commission and new and innovative program to support our Black girls. As we look at 2023, we are excited to grow and expand additional elements of the department's work in the community. Our commitment to Columbus's New American community will grow by adding a second team member to our New American programming work. This will allow us to strengthen and deepen our relationships within the New American communities. A new cohort of the New American Leadership Academy will begin in early 2023. Additionally, we have expanded this work to begin working with young people and will continue to engage our NALA alumni. We will continue to provide translation and interpretation services to city departments and ensure access to all city programs and services. Our community programming work will continue to advance the community aspirations in the One Linden and Envision Hilltop plans. In 2022, we continue to provide home repair to residents in Linden, and in the Hilltop, supported the Hilltop Rise CDC that will focus on vital development on the West Broad and Sullivan Avenue corridors. In 2023, work will begin to engage residents in the development of the long-awaited Eastland Community Plan. In addition to our work that is advancing racial equity across Columbus, I am personally committed to advancing equity within my department. This is seen in my commitment to ensuring that our staff reflects the community we serve and in the vendors that we work with. Our current staffing includes 34 females, 17 males. Additionally, 24 members of the team identify as Black or African, 18 as white, 3 as Hispanic, and 2 as multiracial. In 2022, we are proud that our minority spend for quarters 1 through quarter 3 was 26% of the spending that we, all business that we did in our community, in our department. This includes our MBE, WBE, and minority business registration work. I hope that you can see our commitment to equity from our work and our 2023 proposed budget and programming. From staffing to programming and collaboration, equity is at the forefront of everything we do. I'd also like to just say a special thank you to you and your team for always being willing to partner with us on the work that we do to advance equity in our community. Thank you again for allowing us the opportunity to share our proposed 2023 operating budget and programs with you, and we would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I do have some questions, and really a lot of these questions are just elevating work that you talked a little bit about, but just giving folks a broader look at what that means. So I'm going to start with Eastland, because you know how excited I am about the development in the Eastland area. Can you talk to folks just a little bit about what that process looks like? Because I know that, especially as we look at the Hilltop and One Linden, those are like longer term plans. We're right at the cusp of starting Eastland. What does that kind of entail for folks? What can they expect? You know, especially now that we're launching, because folks were not part of the process before, just some insight into how we engage the community and what that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely, and thank you for that question. And so I'll just give you a little insight into what we did in Hilltop and Linden, and that'll give you an idea of what you can expect in Eastland. And I know everybody has been waiting for this work, and I will say the actual planning process takes about 18 months, but as part of that planning process, we will, there will be a community needs assessment, a residential and retail housing studies, just so we can assess what is already in the area. And then another big part of the process, council member, is extensive community engagement. I think in both Linden and Hilltop, that was about a 4 to 6 month process, where we had community meetings. We invited residents out to tell us what they wanted to see in their community. Because as I always share with our residents, we're doing a plan with you and not to you. And so it's important that we have your engagement throughout the process. So while I tell people the process will take about 18 months, it won't seem that long, because we will make it fun and very engaging for our residents.
And if folks didn't know, I'm from the east side. I don't know if I've ever mentioned that. But I'm very excited about that process. And I think, I mean, if we've waited this long, 18 months for an intentional process is nothing in comparison to what could be and imagining what could be together. So I want to thank you for that work. So I also want to talk a little bit about area commissions. I know that we increased some funding. Where will that increased funding go, and how will that? I also want to say thank you to all of our area commissioners, because if folks do not know, it is a lot of work that people raise their hand and say, choose me. And literally there's a process now for us to choose who those area commissioners are. And I want to thank the department for that work. So can you talk to us a little bit about where the increased funding will go and what is in the plan for area commissioners in the future?
Absolutely. So each area commission at this point receives a stipend of about $2,500 per year. And so many area commissions use that. In some cases, they have to rent space if they're not meeting within a city facility, or they'll use it for paper or just things that they need to do the work of the area commission. We really try through our neighborhood liaisons to help cut down on their costs. So say if there's a public records request for information on a particular area commission, rather than them having to spend their area commission funds on that. We try to work through that with our team and through our office because we certainly have a larger supply budget. And then I know in about years past, council had helped to fund technology grants for area commissions. And that was extremely helpful during the pandemic, as we know that not everybody had a laptop that they could access or had Wi-Fi, so they were able to get hotspots and different things to help them when we were able to meet virtually. And some meet virtually just for not for public meetings, but to have, conversation about what they want to do and maybe planning. But of course, all of their area commission meetings and planning and work needs to be done in public. And so some of that funding went to technology, providing additional resources for them to continue the work of the commissions. Because as you said, it's not an easy job.
It is not an easy job, but everyone should do it. If you have the time, you should do it. Can you talk to us a little bit about the upgrades that we made to 311 and how that has been able to increase the services that we provide to residents? Absolutely. And you talked a little bit about that. I'm excited that we're going to have actually folks in our neighborhood centers that people can go and speak to, but can you talk to us a little bit
Absolutely.
about that?
I'm going to let Deputy Director Diefendorfer share that with you. He has lived, eat, breathe, and slept 311 for the past 2 years.
Thank you very much, Councilmember. We are thrilled that the new system is in place. Appreciate the feedback from our residents as we made some additional adjustments. Anytime you implement a significant technological change, there's some additional polish that's needed to be put on it, and we have done that. Still seeing, we'll be over 500,000 customer contacts for this year. We're very excited having the mobile app and the upgraded website. In the past, we've had about 40% or so of our contacts coming in through those ways. We set a goal to raise that to 45% in the coming year. Just really wanted to make sure that residents have the ability to contact their city government whenever it's convenient for them. So if it works during the day from 7 to 6, they can give us a call, they can leave a voicemail, they can send us an email, or use those online tools. And then very excited, as you mentioned, and we believe kind of end of first quarter, we'll have team members in a number of our neighborhood pride centers. So residents will be able to schedule an appointment, or a number of area commissions, other civic groups meet in the pride centers. They're going to create time before those meetings, kind of on a regular basis. People can drop in, meet with a representative, submit requests that they might have, follow up on ones that are in there. So we're just glad to, again, meet people where they are to make sure that they can access the city services that they need.
And those folks will really be doing God's work. So I just want to say, I know that it is, I say that jokingly, but honestly, I know that when it's challenging, when folks want to get things done or they're frustrated about a certain particular topic. And so really having that very personal connection. And I know the folks in the 311 Center are very dedicated. I've had the opportunity to walk through the center. I want to walk through again when folks are there, because we did it, I think it was around the pandemic time. So I think folks were working from home at that time. But I think having that very personalized kind of attention that folks can meet people and removing those barriers for folks that maybe not as tech savvy or don't want to talk on a phone is an added benefit. So I just want to thank you for including that in the services that we can offer our residents, and excited to see what comes of that and the learnings that we have so that we can better address resident concerns. So my last question is also around something that is near and dear to my heart, which is my brother's keeper and the Commission on Black Girls, because our investment in our young people and ensuring, especially I think at a time where as the mother of teenagers, our young people are increasingly getting lots of messages. There's lots of challenges out there, especially after coming out of the pandemic. So all of the outreach that we've been doing specifically with programs like this to help young people feel seen, to help them feel like they are invested in, is critical. So can you talk a little bit more about the additional programming that we'll be providing for folks? You mentioned it, but I want to make sure that we elevate it for our residents.
Absolutely, and thank you for that question. You know, Councilmember, one of the things that we've realized, and, you know, I'm sure others that work with young people have as well, is the impact that the pandemic has had on our young people, the isolation, the not being in school, the not being able to, you know, participate in school activities and do things with their friends. And so a lot of the programming that we do through both MBK and the Commission on Black Girls this year and probably in 2023, again, is looking at the trauma, the impact, the mental health issues that our kids are facing that they may not be speaking about. And so a lot of the programming and our interaction with them is ways for them to bring this out so that they can have these open and honest conversations and that young people know that they are not in this alone. I know many folks might think that they're, you know, when you're sitting at home with your computer and you're not around anybody else, you think you're the only one that's going through a certain issue. But we need to let our young people know that they are not alone and that the things that they are going through, a lot of folks are, and that there are caring adults and allies and mentors in this community that want to help them and help them get through this. And so we'll see a lot of, be doing a lot more of that with my Brother's Keeper and the Commission on Black Girls, and in particular in our summer youth programming, ensuring that there are a couple things that we want to make sure with our summer youth program. We want to make sure that young people have an opportunity to earn money, to make honest money during the summer, and also to be exposed to opportunities that they may not be able to during the school year. This first year partnership with the Fisher College of Business brought folks to the campus of Ohio State, young people that live in this community, live less than 3 miles away from Ohio State and had never set foot on that campus. And for us, that's unacceptable, that we have to be able to provide these experiences for the folks in our, the young people in our community. You know, the saying, you can't be what you don't see, and if you don't see it and you're not exposed to it, then you don't know that you have the opportunity to be it. And so those are the kinds of things that we'll be doing with through MBK and the Commission on Black Girls.
And I also heard you mention doing some work with NALA and that's the New American Leadership Academy, extending that to young people as well?
Yes, yes. So actually, we've been doing some work with the Columbus Global Academy and piloting kind of a NALA Junior to kind of see, because we want to make sure that we get our young people civically engaged. I mean, we know one thing we learned during the pandemic, young people have a voice and they're not willing, they're not afraid to say what's on their mind. And so we want to kind of create a safe space and create opportunities for them to be engaged and also to go through some of that training that some of the adults do in the NALA program.
No, I love that. And I think that the importance of creating that sense of belonging in those safe spaces for young people where you can see people who look like you and be in that space together communally is critically important, I think. And I just want to, again, thank you for that work and that investment in our young people, because it really is an investment in our future, as we know. And giving young people will always have choices. It's about directing them to the right choices. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for that work. I want to thank all of our folks for being here tonight, especially Director William Scott. This is 2 late nights. I didn't keep you here quite as late this evening after our marathon meeting yesterday, but this concludes our budget hearing. If folks have additional questions, if you're seeing this, you can always reach out to our office. We're happy to connect you to any of the departments. We're happy to connect you to any of the additional resources that you saw here this evening. And with that, I wish you all a very safe and happy holiday, however you celebrate and whoever you celebrate with. Thank you very much.